Time and place is everything, especially in marketing. But in today's age of a million messages per minute and not enough hours in a day, how do you really catch your target audience's attention? Fortunately, there's a simple way. LinkedIn can help you speak to the right people at the right time. With LinkedIn becoming #1 in B2B display advertising in the US, you've got a great advantage. You can stand out against your competitors while nurturing customer relationships and growing your brand. LinkedIn delivers you quality and quantity. Its targeting tools allow you to reach your precise audience down to their job title, company name, location, and more, which means your ads are being seen by those who matter. Scale your marketing and grow your business with LinkedIn advertising. As a thank you to their customers for helping them grow 3 times faster than their competition, LinkedIn is offering a $100 credit on your next campaign. Go to linkedin.com/marketing to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/marketing.
The doors to the Patients Getting Paid membership community are now wide open. This is a community of people with chronic illness learning to find and create flexible remote work that accommodates their health. I call us chronicpreneurs. There are trainings, coaching calls, networking opportunities, co-workings, and a ton of resources. Want to take better care of yourself and still generate an income? Join us at patientsgettingpaid.com. Welcome to the FUMS Now podcast show, where you'll gain information, inspiration, and motivation for living your best life with multiple sclerosis. Find us online at FUMSnow.com. I'm your host, Kathy Reagan Young. If you haven't heard of Dr. Terry Wahls, I'm assuming you're either newly diagnosed or you live under a rock. She's been making MS headlines since she designed a diet and lifestyle protocol that got her out of a tilt-recline wheelchair and has her riding her bike to work now. It's an amazing story, and she's here today to talk about it and her latest study. But first, let me remind you that you can share your FUMS spirit with the world by wearing some FUMS merchandise available over at FUMSnow.com/shop. And if you aren't on the FUMS newsletter list, do yourself a favor and sign up. I do all the work for you. I curate articles and studies and points of interest, the top 6 topics in MS for that week. It's called the FUMS 6-pack, and you can sign up for it at FUMSnow.com/getthescoop. Dr. Terry Wahls is an Institute for Functional Medicine certified practitioner and a clinical professor of medicine at the University of Iowa, where she conducts clinical trials. In 2018, she was awarded the Institute for Functional Medicine's Linus Pauling Award for her contributions in research, clinical care, and patient advocacy. She's also a patient with secondary progressive multiple sclerosis, which she improved tremendously with her own diet and lifestyle program. Welcome back, Dr. Wahls. I so appreciate you wanting to come back.
Thank you so much, and I appreciate the great work that you do as well.
Thank you. So as mentioned in that intro, you were confined to a tilt-recline wheelchair for 4 years, I think it was. Then you restored your health using a diet and lifestyle program that you designed. And now you're able to pedal your bike to work. It's just astounding. For those who may not be familiar with your story, would you mind sharing that with the community?
So I'm going to sort of tell it in real time. 20 years ago, I'm out walking with my wife. A half mile from home, my left leg grows weak, dragging it to hobble home. The next day, I see the neurologist who says, Terry, it could be bad or really, really bad. Now, at night in bed next to Jackie, I'm thinking about the 20 years of worsening electrical face pain. And I secretly pray for a fatal diagnosis.
Wow.
3 weeks later, I hear multiple sclerosis, see the best people, take the newest drugs. 3 years later, I hear tilt-recline wheelchair. My face pains have been getting relentlessly worse. They turn on, tears stream down my face as my 10-year-old daughter hugs me. But I'm a physician. I go to PubMed and I begin reading the basic science. And I begin experimenting on myself based on what I'm reading. The speed of my decline slows. But I am too weak to sit up at my desk. I discovered a study using electrical stimulation of muscles. I asked my physical therapist, can I try that? He calls it E-stim. He says it's for athletes. But he agrees to give me a test session. And it hurts bad, really, really bad. But when it's over, I feel great. And he lets me add E-stim to my physical therapy. My physicians have always said, because I have secondary progressive MS, functions once lost will not come back. But, am I doing all that I can? I've already been on the paleo diet for 5 years. I've got this handful of supplements. I'm doing eSIM. I had this big aha moment. What if I redesign my paleo diet based on all the science? 3 months later, the zingers are gone. My brain fog is less. And I am walking with a cane. 3 months after that, we have an emergency family meeting because I asked my family, I want to try riding my bike for the first time in 6 years. With my son jogging alongside on the left, my daughter on the right, and my wife behind, I push off and I ride my bike around the block.
Gosh, that must have been quite.
My son is crying, my daughter's crying, my wife's crying, I'm crying. And if you look at I cry now telling that story. And 3 months after that, we signed me up for the Courage Ride, 18.5 miles. And once as I crossed the finish line, my face crying, I'm crying, and it radically changes how I think about disease and health, the way I practice medicine, the research I do, and the direction of my life. Because once that happened, I had to tell the world.
Right. You feel the obligation to share.
I got roundly condemned by a lot of folks for creating false hope, for being dangerous. I got called into my chief of staff's office who said, okay, people are complaining about what you're doing in clinic. I hear you've been banned as a speaker by the MS Society. What's going on?
Oh, gosh.
And that was in 2009, early 2009, because people were thrilled that I'm walking.
Right.
But they were uncomfortable with what I was doing. I'm very, very grateful that the MS Society banned me and that my partners complained and I had to go see my chief of staff because then and he said, Tara, you're going to lose your license doing this. Oh, you have to learn how to talk about what you're doing. So I brought all my scientific papers. He said, okay, I believe the science, but you can't do it the way you're doing it. You have to learn how to talk about it in a way that is safe for you. Because anyone can make an anonymous complaint on your license, you'll get audited and you'll lose your license.
Gosh.
So then I had to go meet with the chief of the complementary alternative medicine clinic and learned how they talk about complementary alternative medicine. I shifted my messaging with my patients, with my clinic, still doing the same stuff, but I talked about it a slightly different way. I was very careful about how I talked about it publicly. And that was much more comfortable than for my medical colleagues. The university was fine with the message I put out in my TED Talk and my book. And then ultimately the MS Society, my message actually is a pretty great one. And they funded, our big study.
Yeah.
And I'm now part of their nutrition subcommittee. I'm grateful for my chief of staff calling me and saying, Terry, you're going to get yourself in trouble here. We have to get you properly trained so that you do things the correct way.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm grateful too, because then you got it out here to the rest of us. The last time you were here, which is in 2018, episode 10, and I will put that link in the show notes as well, we talked about the differences between yours and Dr. Swank's diet. And now you've completed a study on it called The Impact of the Swank and Wahls Elimination Dietary Interventions on Fatigue and Quality of Life in RRMS.
Yeah.
So let's cut to the chase. What was the goal of this study and what did you find?
So the goal was to see the effect of the diets on fatigue, quality of life, walking endurance, working memory, and within the diet and between diets. Because we wanted to know, does it help these measures? And was one diet better?
Yeah.
Big questions. And we knew that the MS Society was asking, okay, so which diet is better, Wahls or Swank? And when we designed the study, we went to the Swank Foundation, which actually had been influenced by my work because they had made the Swank diet a whole lot more like the Wahls diet, by the way. So they asked for more vegetables. If you're having grains, be sure that they're whole grain. So we use their guidelines as opposed to the guidelines from this book. So we improve the quality of the Swank diet, and then we use the Wahls elimination diet. We had a observation period, so we could see, did fatigue, quality of life, walking endurance, memory, was it stable or did it spontaneously improve? Well, no surprise, it was stable during that time period. So we have measures at the initial run-in period, then visit 2. That's when people were randomized. And then you get trained in the Swank diet, which is low saturated fat, 4 servings of vegetables, 4 servings of whole grains, white meat, as in poultry, breast, and white fish. Or the Wahls elimination diet, which is the modified paleo diet. 6 to 12 ounces of meat, 6 to 9 servings of vegetables. If you're tall like me, it's 9 servings of vegetables. If you're short and petite female, then it's 6. And we take nightshades out the first 12 weeks. Then we let you put nightshades back in after that. And we let you put nightshades in one at a time so you can identify, is there a nightshade that's a problem for you or not? And we repeated measures, all measures at 12 weeks and at 24 weeks. So we have a sense of, do things change at weeks, further improve or stay good at 24 weeks? And what we saw, I was surprised. Swank and Wahls were really equivalent at 12 and 24 weeks for the fatigue severity scale score.
Okay.
So it was remarkably improved from baseline, that observation period. And so that's really clinically, if you want to reduce your fatigue, and clinically you've been told to do a low saturated diet and you want to do Swank, that's fine. If you want to do a modified paleo diet, that's also fine. When we looked at quality of life measures, the physical health and mental health quality of life measures, at both 12 and 24 weeks, the Wahls diet was significantly and clinically more improved than the Swank diet. Having said that, I do want to be clear that certainly at 24 weeks, the Swank diet also improved quality of life. So you just got further improvements in the Wahls group than you got in the Swank group.
Got it.
The walking endurance, which is how far you can walk in 6 minutes, is interesting. At 12 weeks, neither Wahls nor Swank had any difference. And that's really not surprising because we told them, don't add exercise. This is a diet study.
Okay.
We want you to just change your diet. We can measure the effect of diet. So 12 weeks, there's no difference between Wahls and Swank, and they really hadn't changed their walking endurance. At 24 weeks, the Wahls group had walked further and statistically had walked further. Now, the p-value in terms of difference between Wahls and Swank had a p-value of 0.08. So not quite statistically significant, but it's certainly interesting that walking endurance was further improved on the Wahls group. And then the other test that we did, which is not in the paper, but we did put in the ACTRIMS abstract, was working memory. It's a test called Symbol Digit Modalities Test, where you have a key and you are saying verbally what the abstract image represents number-wise.
Okay.
So it's a measure of RAM on your computer. The more RAM you have, the faster your computer. The less RAM, the slower you are.
Right.
So the slower your working memory, the slower you're going to be on that test, and the more boo-boos you'll make.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is interesting was at 12 weeks, the Swank group did better. Mm-hmm. And at 24 weeks, Wahls and Swank were equivalent. And was not quite clinically significant for either group, but that was interesting. I think the message I'd have for everyone is the standard American diet, high in sugar, processed foods, low in vegetables, low in protein, does not improve outcomes. Mm-hmm. You're not going to improve. If you improve the quality of your diet, and we have two diets, the Swank diet, the Wahls diet, that will improve outcomes. Mm-hmm. And it's the largest, longest study that's been done to date with the most measures. We have a freezer full of blood, plasma and serum, and we have a grant we've often the MS Society to try and get those biomarkers analyzed. And then we're going to send it off to the NIH in June. So we'll eventually get that analyzed to see what changes. I'm really excited about that because there was a study by Bach with a much smaller group in Germany that looked at a fasting mimicking diet, ketogenic diet, and usual diet. And he saw that the ketogenic diet group had significantly improved serum neurofilaments that they could measure in 6 months.
Wow. That's huge.
And I'm like, I got a freezer.
Yeah, right.
We want to measure that. So we have a couple grant proposals that are out right now to measure those serum neurofilaments. And we have 6 months of intervention. So I'd be very optimistic that we will see improvements in that. So very, very exciting. And we have more data to write up. We have microbiome data to write up. We have ocular data to write up. And we have additional measures that we've not yet reported that we can write up as well. A question that people ask, like, the Wahls diet, it eliminates whole food groups. It must be nutritionally, deficient. Mm-hmm. And so we did analyze the diet during the observation period, and then the diet for the Swank group and the Wahls group. And the quality of the diet improved, both in the Wahls and the Swank group. The Wahls had a greater level of improvements. And frankly, because it's structured, give people much more detailed guidance on these are the things we want you to be eating to maximize nutritional intake.
Fantastic. It's all so exciting.
It is exciting.
I spoke with someone over the weekend, actually, whose daughter was just diagnosed with MS. She has MS and now her daughter was diagnosed, which is, every mother's nightmare. And we talked about a lot of things, but I said to her, which is an ironic statement, I think, but I said, there has never been a better time to be diagnosed with MS than right now, because the research that's going on and the findings that are coming out are really exciting. I mean, I feel very hopeful now, where I didn't when I was diagnosed, 14 years ago. So.
Oh, absolutely. When I was diagnosed 20 years ago, it was basic science. My wife finally sat me down and said, you got to stop reading. It's just upsetting you, because
it is.
Everything was about the progressive nature of the illness.
Right.
And then the best neuroscience are agreeing with me that that matters. Stress reduction matters. Exercise matters. Sleep matters. The microbiome matters. It's like they finally read my book and
right. They caught up.
Clinicians are saying, you got to improve your diet.
Yeah.
Pick one of the diets that you could follow as a family. The Swank diet, intermittent fasting, the Wahls diet, the Mediterranean diet. Pick one that you can follow as a family and follow it and see what happens.
Right. And that's true. Everything that you just said is true, regardless of if you have MS or not. I mean, the standard American diet is horrible, and these diets can really improve your quality of life, even if you don't have a disease. I think you would find a change in how you feel. You would just perhaps have more vitality, and just paying attention to these things, reduce your stress, eat better, eat better quality foods, that sort of thing is getting to the point where it's more widely known. And I think more people are trying at least to do more of that. Thank goodness, finally.
You are listening to this show on the Off-Script Health Radio Network. Yes, I said radio. My name is Matthew Zachary, co-founder and CEO here at Off-Script Health, and I wanted to thank you, the listener, for supporting our hosts, their guests, and our entire network of acclaimed shows, limited series, and major documentaries. In doing so, you are helping to fulfill our mission to make healthcare suck less for all of us together. To learn more about Off-Script Health and our network of other shows, series, and documentaries, visit offscripthealth.com. That's offscript, no T.com.
Your study said that fatigue is the most common and debilitating symptom, and I have to agree 100%. That is a tough one. There is little dietary advice given upon diagnosis. There was Zippy when I was diagnosed, and I really make it a point to ask people now as they're being diagnosed, tell me how they told you what you have, and tell me what they told you to do. And I'm not hearing very often anything about dietary advice. How would you like doctors to talk about diet to their newly diagnosed patients?
Ideally, what you're saying is diet, lifestyle, self-care are really important. And Mediterranean diet, paleo diet, Wahls diet, swank diet, all have some good research behind them. Follow one of those. Mm-hmm. You could go see a dietitian and get advice on dietary guidelines for America. That's a huge step forward from the standard American diet. Mm-hmm. And so that's an option. Mm-hmm. But your self-care routine is vital. Now, I have a lot of empathy for my neurology colleague. They have very little time, and they have to tell you the diagnosis, and they're going to explain the standard of care is to start a disease-modifying treatment. And that's between the neurologist and their patient. They don't have much time or training on. Be sure that you're also improving your diet, adding meditation. Let's send you to physical therapy to design an exercise program that you can do and sustain. I wish that could be included. Yeah. They could send you to a dietitian, and the dietitian could talk to you and say, you know what, I really want to do the Wahls diet. The dietitian may say, I really don't want you to, but you just have to hold your ground, say, I'm going to follow a paleo diet. So you can help me or not, but I'm going to follow a paleo diet, and just help me do that.
Yeah. I think, having that as kind of standard of care, at least addressing the issue. I remember clearly in preparing for this today, I was thinking back to the day that I was diagnosed, and I was stunned because there were several things that it could have been, and I was praying for all of those things, and I was praying that it wouldn't be MS. So when he said MS, I was just sort of stunned. And thankfully, my husband was there and had the presence of mind and said, is there anything that she could be doing differently in her diet? Should she be exercising? And I just remember very clearly him just saying, nope, diet and exercise don't matter. In fact, don't exercise. Just relax as much as possible. Just relax. And I look back now and I think, what? What? I mean, I found it for myself how much exercise helps. I found for myself how much, I can have a very different feeling in the afternoon after I've eaten a bunch of carbs as opposed to eating some protein. So I had to learn it that way. I hope that we get to a point where the standard of care is you have MS. Here are some things that you should be doing, and they should include diet and exercise and stress reduction. And as you say, go to a PT, learn exercise.
I'm really pleased when my book came out in 2014, because the MS Society monitors social media. They saw that there was this huge surge in social media mentions of diet, exercise, meditation, the Wahls protocol, Dr. Terry Wahls. And that's when they convened the wellness meeting and had 45 scientists and 45 people with MS come meet, and we talked about the need to have wellness as a research priority. And the following year, they funded some dietary studies. Ours was one of them, so that was very exciting. And then they created a wellness committee. There's the physical exercise subcommittee, the nutrition subcommittee. I'm on the nutrition subcommittee. The exercise subcommittee developed guidelines for exercise, 150 minutes every week, and that even people who are wheelchair bound should be exercising. That was radical at the time. And now the nutrition subcommittee, we evaluate the research on diet, and basically have said, there's positive research on a wide variety of dietary patterns. That's really very important. Saying, yep, diet matters. That you could refer people to a dietitian to improve the quality of their diet, and then work with the dietitian, say, which of these dietary patterns can you as a family implement that you want to implement? Dietary guidelines, that's a huge step forward from standard American diet. Mediterranean diet, that's fine. A paleo diet actually is nutritionally sound. We've proven that in multiple studies now. The swank diet, also nutritionally sound. So find a dietary pattern that you and your family can embrace.
Yeah. And that's so important, because when I was diagnosed, my kids were 4 and 6, and oh my gosh, trying to get those kids to eat to begin with. But that's a really important point. I mean, find something for the entire family, because I just don't think it's going to work if you're just trying to do something specific for you. I think incorporate and get the support of the whole family. And it's, again, going back to, this isn't just good for those that have MS. I mean, we can all use some improvement in our diet across the board, right?
And for your children, they'll have less anxiety, less depression, fewer problems with behavior and learning, less impulse control problems, which is a problem when they're really young. But then when they're adolescent, like, oh my God.
Right. Bigger kids, really, bigger problems. Right. So how long does it take to, I'm trying to think of the right way to ask this. What I'm trying to say is, once someone starts on one of these diets, how long does it typically take till people notice they're feeling better?
So I'm going to answer this based on my clinical experience at the VA, where we treated a wide variety of medical problems, and fatigue, pain, and mood changes were the 3 most common symptoms. Within 6 weeks, when people come back, they would very often report that they're beginning to feel a little better for the first time. In our studies, people come back at 12 weeks. I'd say 70% to 80% of the folks who are adherent, make that clear.
Is the key.
Actually doing the diet.
Right.
Of those who were adherent to the diet, 70 to 80% had clinically meaningful reduction in fatigue and improvement in quality of life. Now, if they were still eating the standard American diet, no surprise, there wasn't much change.
Yeah.
And so, there's a big difference between doing the diet like half the time,
right,
and all of the time. Yeah. Doing the diet 70% of the time, and all of the time. So for me, if I have dairy, gluten, or eggs, my trigeminal neuralgia will turn off in about 6 hours. I'll have incapacitating pain. So for me, compliance, once I figured out that link, has been very easy, because I get a signal. In my clinics, when I see patients, we talk about that, and we do a lot of training on patients, how to identify what their signal is, so they can really tune in. Because it is very helpful to get that kind of feedback.
Sure.
These foods I feel great on. These foods, my fatigue is worse, my mood is worse, my pain is worse, my balance is worse. I'm not doing those foods because I can tell.
Yeah. But that's such an important point too. I guess paying attention, being mindful about what you're eating and how it affects you. So I think I was just blanked out for a long time and didn't really pay attention. When I started really paying attention to how I would feel so lethargic and so fatigued after lunch often, and it was a direct correlation to what I was eating. It was like this aha moment, but I didn't put it together for a very long time. So I just think even just talking about this and making people aware and saying, pay attention to what you're doing right now. And then, figure out what's one of these diets that are going to work for you and give it a shot. I mean, I can't imagine anyone's not going to feel better as long as you're being compliant and actually doing it, as you said.
Think of this as you're the principal investigator. So you're the scientist of the most important experiment in the world, which is your life.
Yes.
And so if you're going to do an intervention, dietary guidelines for America, Mediterranean diet, Swank diet, Wahls diet, pick the intervention you want to do. But for heaven's sakes, actually do the intervention.
Yes. Yeah.
If I was doing a scientific experiment, only did it halfway, right. That's a terrible experiment. I'll know nothing at the end.
Right. Yep. Agreed. So for those interested in the Wahls diet, you have 2 books on the subject and a cookbook. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. What is the difference between your books and which would you suggest people start with?
Well, you want to get the most recent edition that has the blue banner across the top that came out just as the pandemic came out. So
good timing.
So it was like so relevant. It's 30% new information. It's got 536 pages, I believe, the latest science. It really is a fabulous, fabulous update. So you want to get the revised and expanded version that came out in 2020. Now, it'll be a little confusing because they kept the same ISBN. So it'll look like it came out in 2017, but it really was revised in 2020. So you just have to look to see, does it have the blue banner? And I think I have.
Look for the blue banner.
Matter of fact, here it is.
There it is. Perfect.
This is what you want to pick up.
Excellent.
Very, very helpful. Then the other book that you want to pick up, because most folks, we sort of forgot how to cook.
Yes.
So this is a really helpful template that guides you on how to cook using a templated guide for levels 1, 3. It tells you how to do the elimination diet. And it sort of helps you improvise with the ingredients you have on hand. It teaches you how to make things simply.
Yeah.
And I thought a lot about people who are living in rural Iowa, small rural grocery stores.
Yeah.
They can't get fancy ingredients. And people are going to be tired.
Mm-hmm.
They may have difficulty standing and spending hours in the kitchen. So we do have some, fun, fancy meals for celebratory events, but we have ordinary meals that are easy to prepare and do not take a long
weekday
time.
Meals. Yeah, that's great. Yes. So oddly enough, I listened to a podcast earlier this morning, and this woman was on there saying, forget any elimination diets. That takes too long. And of course, I'm not going to remember the name of it, but it was a test. Get the poop, scoop it, send it, and find out what it is that you have sensitivities to. What are your thoughts on that?
None of the tests are perfect. Mm-hmm. So there are tests that are basis of response, the ALCAD or the LEAP test, or anti-response. And so to be completely sure, you'd have to do both tests, a cell-based and antibody test. It is convenient. In my life at the VA, I couldn't do either test. All I could do elimination diet. I would CP. We would talk about the clinical we might do an elimination diet, and then say, okay, If they had a more extreme clinical presentation, we'd offer the elimination diet. Or if they had rheumatoid arthritis, inflammatory bowel disease. Or I'd say, you start with level 1 or level 2, see how you do. If you do great, then that's where we stay.
Yeah.
If you aren't getting the results you want, then we'll go on to the elimination diet. And I learned practice functional medicine in the VA with functional medicine tests, with basic care labs, and doing a history and an exam. And I did all, by the way, group visits and group classes because it ended up being so popular. So we did very well without the food sensitivity test. You can do that if you have more money than time.
Yeah, right.
You can do.
Yeah.
But I would caution everyone in that the body is much more complex than we fully understand. And so you may discover that you do these tests, that the results come back sort of confusing. You have 30 foods that you're not supposed to eat. You're like,
yeah, that's a lot.
What,
yeah.
Now
what?
What do I do?
Yeah.
Whereas if you'd come to me and we just would have said, we'll start with these simple interventions, see how you do. And if you get the response you want, that's great. If you don't get the response you want, we'll do things a bit more intensively. And then we'll do some more testing to personalize your recommendations.
Later. Yeah, that makes sense. Fantastic. If people want to learn more about you, your diet and protocol, where should they go?
So go to terrywahls.com, Terry, Wahls, WAHLS.com /diet, and you'll get the one-page handout. If you have relapsed remitting MS and you live within 500 miles of Iowa City, we want you because we'd like to enroll you in this great clinical trial we'll have that will compare dietary guidelines, the paleo diet and a ketogenic diet. And I want to reassure you, we expect all 3 diets to be helpful. We'll have MRIs and blood values. It'll be lots of fun to see what happens over 2 years. So no one gets a bad diet.
Yeah.
I want to emphasize that. Nobody gets a bad diet. Everyone gets a diet that we anticipate will be helpful. We're very, very excited. Again, if you have relapsing remitting MS and you live within 500 miles of Iowa City, I'll share the link with you, and I'm sure we'll put that in the show notes.
Yes, 100%. And what about, I love following you on social media because I love to see what you're eating and what you're doing in your garden and all of those things. I just love it. So where can people find you there?
Yes. So I have Facebook and Twitter, Terry Wahls, all in one word. My Instagram is Dr. Terry Wahls. You'll see what I'm eating, what I'm doing. You'll see me biking, hiking. Most of our meals end up there. Right now, you also see that Jackie's mom, a 91-year-old mother,
unbelievable. Yes,
and so she is there giving us a lot of direction and advice on life.
Yeah, that's perfect. What a joy to have. What an opportunity to have. Well, and I really do love to follow all of that. I feel like, I'm there having dinner with you often. Thank you so much for coming back and updating the FUMS community on your continued work on our behalf. And please come back again and keep us updated.
Absolutely.
All of these links will be in the show notes, everybody, as usual. And now for the good stuff. We here in the FUMS Nation speak to this stupid disease as it deserves, and we tell it FUMS every day. If you would please, Dr. Wahls, lead us in our salute to the bastard on 3. Are you ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
FUMS.
That was a good one. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Much love to you and your tribe.
Quick shout out to Steve Woodward at podcastingeditor.com for the fantastic work on this podcast, including editing, show notes, and ingenious ideas. If you'd like help with your podcast, whether you're just starting out or an old pro, visit podcastingeditor.com and tell Steve I sent you. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you listening to the FUMS podcast show. Be sure to subscribe to it so you won't miss an episode. You can do that right on the website at FUMSnow.com. While you're there, Sign up for the free email list so you'll be among the first to know of any new findings in MS research, new therapies and products, as well as any blog posts and podcast episodes I release. Want to chat with others in the FUMS community? Join us on Facebook at FUMS Now. Thanks again, and don't forget to talk to the stupid disease as it deserves. Tell it FUMS every day.